Let's head into game number 2 here with the picks and bans heading right now. Look at that, my timing's correct. Elevate on the left-hand side will get first ban, and they look for the bat.
Nemesis provides a lot of burst damage you don't necessarily want to deal with, considering Cherryo's playing the jungle role now for Elevate, or at least in the last game. Not something that he's known to be playing, so instead taking that option away from adapting.
Ganesha and Bologna, two strong choices, will be banned out. And with the last ban of the first phase, NRG opt to take out the little dwarf. It's Fafnir. He's rich, but he certainly ain't here. And the first choice will be Cernunnos for Elevate's Hunter, Jermain.
Cernunnos, Jermain, one god for one player that really fits the style that he likes to play. Just pure aggression here. The question is going to remain is how is he going to start in that dueling? Because NRG, they started their own red buff and their own purple buff, even sacrificing a wave under that tier 1 tower. Can Jermain and Dardez really start taking advantage of that?
Run it back. Nemesis and Soul, very strong combination. Why not do it again? Nemesis looked very strong on adapting. He's able to go ahead and choose individual targets to take out of the game, making the fight a 5-on-4 very quickly. We know that NRG loves their Sunders. Nemesis is basically a walking Sunder, so obviously that's going to be the choice. So Wukong, and there's that Naja. Now Cherryo's known for his Guardian-type play, but Naja is his go-to carry.
Yes, he loves this Naja, especially when he comes to a land setting, just always able to hit a lot of these abilities. And considering that Nulisa loves to play Vulcan, this could be an opportunity to get that wombo combo going for Elevate.
At the same time, I love the Khepri selection into the Naja. Naja is a character that's going to specifically look to take an individual out, and it's a small window, but as soon as Naja goes for the sash or blinks forward if he wants to get the ult without the sash, which is the better way, Khepri's got to find that window and drop the Rising Sun on them, and that way they can go ahead and revive, and it's basically a battle between those two players.
Look at this. NRG banning away the Vulcan to prevent the wombo combo and taking away the early game ices from Nulisa. Definitely doing their homework and respecting that jungle mid pressure that's capable at Elevate.
Well, we spoke about it. We said Nulisa, one of the, these players that are in, she's in her sophomore year. She's sort of there, but not a veteran. We know her god pool. And what happens when she strays away from it? That Nox game was not too hot. So Vulcan, Isis stripped. You kind of figure that she's going to go to the Giannis or with another pick that we don't know about. The Dardez Ares comes out, one of the more scary Ares players here in Europe. And there it is. It's going to be the Nox one more time.
Nox still has a lot of control in these team fights, considering the Ares provides you a lot of the damage. As long as Nox can find the initial route onto one target, all these chains are going to come out of Dardez, just doing so much damage, finding maybe some early game kills.
There's a lot more control to help out Nox's damage. If Nox doesn't land the tether in the puddle, then she can be, well, just kind of a liability the way she was in game number 1. Game number 2, however, a lot more control, like I said, not just from the Ares like you mentioned, but also the Naja and the Sun Wukong offer a lot of opportunities for Nox to maximize the damage. So we didn't get to see much of it in game number 1. Perhaps here in game number 2, Nox will elevate to the next level. We'll see if that's the case.
I see what he did there as well, and I like that NRG didn't really still prioritize the god selection for Dimi. They had the opportunity to pick the Osiris before the secondary ban phase, but because Dimi likes this Amaterasu and it's working out so well for NRG, there's no reason to just run it back again. But on the flip side, No Numbers, he prioritized the Sun Wukong very early in this draft phase, something that we're not usually accustomed to seeing out of him.
Listen, if I'm in the front office of an esports team, of a MOBA team, right? If I'm playing Smite Manager 2017, I want Dimi. He is a solo laner that will play literally anything, doesn't tilt that often, and kind of just is down to play for the team. And the Amaterasu here, perfect example. He's like, look, man, I don't care if you pick my character before the secondary ban phase. I'll play Ama again. I'll lose lane. But we're going to get the victory, and that's what matters, and that's the attitude that allows Dimi to really be, in my mind, a cornerstone for this NRG team. You need somebody like that.
Ooh, NRG, they realized they were going to get capitalized and collapsed on. They popped the sprint after the red buff invade. Ares is one of these gods that has a lot of damage, but not necessarily the best clear. The Khepri Rama is one of your best guardian hunters that you can have together to clear the wave.
At the same time, you got to be scared of Ares' damage. Ares comes in and hits the chains, and that's why we saw the sprint come out, because those chains do work at level 1 and level 2, and you quickly find yourself on the bad side of First Blood if you don't respect the Ares, but also the Dardez. Dardez specifically has a really nasty Ares.
Absolutely. Same thing can be said about a lot of these European Guardians, honestly. It's something in the water that just makes them want to play this Guardian, emilitoo. He's going to be the victim of a couple of chains, but between the shield provided from iRaffer off of his passive, he's able to really absorb some of this damage, not worry too much, and utilize the Death's Toll passive with the attack speed of that early game tier 1 executioner.
I love the aggression coming out from Jermain as well there, understanding the passive for the Cernunnos will. He's going to obviously take the point-blank shots from emilitoo, but his passive is going to allow him to hit even harder. So it's, again, we mentioned risk versus reward, but he's going to make use of it.
Dimi getting the better end of this matchup this time around as adapting was able to make the rotation and strip away the blue buff from no numbers, and that's not going to allow him on the Wukong to spam the Master's Will or the Cudgel to get the same kind of lane presence. And now Dimi, whenever he has a losing matchup, now he's on the better end of it, having this winning one with the blue buff, and now we can see what he's truly capable of, getting level 5 first, able to maybe make some important rotations in the mid lane.
It's so interesting the way small changes will impact. So when you're Sun Wukong, what ability do you max secondary in that solo lane?
It depends what you're really going for, because if you have a losing matchup, you want to get Cudgel so you can clear safely from a distance, but it's actually more efficient to max out your second ability because it does more damage for less mana against the wave.
Well, here comes adapting. I'll touch on why I asked that in a moment. No ultimate, so adapting doesn't really want a hard commit. Well, basically, a lot of times we see the Cudgel as the first ability, and the second ability sometimes is animals, looking for the burst damage on the tiger.
The stun does a lot of damage. I think it's like 370 base damage potentially once that is maxed out in the mid lane, though, and adapting going to use that ultimate. Cherryo forced to use the ultimate away under the safety of his own tier 1 tower.
Totally fine with that, no problem. Cherryo, on the other hand, not going to be here for the double pull coming out of Dardez. iRaffer is going to get hit by the ultimate or the tower a couple of times. Had there been an Aja there, oh, iRaffer goes deep and he dies for it. Dardez gets credit for the kill, but iRaffer kills himself. First blood goes to Elevate, thanks to the 6th member of the team, the tier 1 tower in mid lane.
I think iRaffer, what he was thinking of, hold that thought though, in the dual lane, emilitoo going to pop the beads, not successful in the red buff invade, and it was a nice play from Dardez, finding that double ultimate off of the nice early blink selection. But I think what iRaffer was thinking there was once he abducted, he could cancel the abduct and then use that Scarab's Blessing on himself to revive him and allow the rest of his teammates to still continue to dive while he's taking those tower shots without too much to worry about. But a little too slow on the trigger. I don't think he truly respected how low he was after that Ares ultimate, not to mention the Nox ultimate on top.
Exactly. So just a problematic start for NRG here. No numbers really wants his blue buff. Dimi's going to try hard not to allow it. So the reason I brought it, and this is going to be a calculated effort by NRG to deny no numbers the blue buff. This will allow, and I mean, you're the solo laner, I'm preaching to the choir here, but the losing matchup that Amaterasu has against a spam-centric character like Sun Wukong doesn't exactly stay as a losing matchup because Wukong doesn't have his blue buff. Now, the reason I asked about the maximizing of the talents or the levels is because you usually see that tiger come out second. But I think we're going to see the Master's Will because that stays at a constant 50 mana no matter how high you level that up.
Absolutely. So you're better safe than sorry here. You don't want to be too worried about using your mana here without the blue buff. Bluestone Pendant is just not enough to really stay in the lane. It's just enough for a small hint and a touch to stay for maybe that one extra wave, but without your blue buffs for the 2nd time in a row, not the best start that no numbers could possibly ask for, but he's not terribly far behind in the net worth. Only down about 200 gold here despite losing 2 blue buffs.
Which is an exemplary performance. That's exactly what you want him to do. And going into that second item, the bridge item of the Mark of the Vanguard, nice look. I like to see that. We've been talking a lot about Gladiator's shield, however. And Sun Wukong is the perfect example of a character that would like to build Glad Shield.
And Gladiator's Shield giving you that 10% cooldown reduction on top of trying to get more health and more mana every single time you use an ability. So by getting this Mark of the Vanguard, you're delaying your other bridge item. You're really trying to go for this mid-game presence out of the Sun Wukong, which isn't the worst idea in the world considering how impactful he could be at that stage, considering how hard he falls off in the later stages.
Also delaying his Transcendence, right?
Possibly. You never know. Another Blink ultimate, though, from Dardez.
And he's going to get at least one. It's iRaffer. Abuse the Khepri. That's how this character was handled when he first came out. That's what we're seeing a secondary time. iRaffer won't fall this time around. The trigger not pulled by Cherryo in that regard. Going to let the Beatles see another day. But the push here on the left side is real.
I like that he held on to his ultimate because once he landed down, every rotation from NRG was there waiting for that potential to go through. And the risky play of sacrificing a jungler for support is definitely not worth it. He used the ring bounces on a stationary reviving Khepri, which guarantees the bounces off of his hunter, emilitoo.
Adapting uses the beads to get away from the very precarious situation he was in. If you looked at the minimap, I look at the minimap basically 90% of the time, and I'm just staring and adapting, getting collapsed on by 4 members of Elevate. I'm just sitting there, oh no.
Not like this.
Oh no. But he quickly finds a way out. But with those beads down, we remember what happened in game number 1.
Yeah, that's right. Cherryo did a great Humbat's ultimate to find their first kill of the game, but it's going to be almost a solo kill. Dimi trying to go for it between the tier 1 and tier 2, gets the movement speed or stance switch, but not going to commit. He doesn't have enough mana to really get out of that one, but in the duel lane, Jermain caught in a 1v2. Hold that thought, emilitoo in the sky with the snipes hits 2. It's all he really needs, iRaffer, with that one.
More of a 1v2.5 right there. No numbers keeps no numbers in his death column, thanks to a nice runaway. Dimi just didn't have the tools here. Now 1-1 as the hunter for Elevate falls down at about 8 minutes on the clock, and no numbers. Will he get his first blue buff?
It looks like that's going to be the case. Finally, Sun Wukong gets his own blue buff against the Amaterasu here. Dimi will still have pretty good lane pressure and control here. He's sitting at level 10 comparatively to level 9 on no numbers. And the difference here is this is the point where the Amaterasu will start getting more levels in that stance switch, getting more health returned to her every single time she switches that stance.
Oh! Not just the blue buff. No numbers are going to look for the speed as well. He'll get it. Running away with the bird. Looks like he's going to walk out clean and clear. That is what makes Sun Wukong so annoying to deal with.
Okay, how mad do you think adapting is on a scale of 1 to 10? Because I've seen some VODs before in my time here, F-Dot.
Yeah, adapting might need a new mouse. He definitely, that's at least, we're all gamers. We've all done the mouse slam.
Yeah.
That's at least a mouse slam. But that, oh, I like to see that out of no numbers. That's what I'm talking about. No numbers, and I have been a fan of this guy since he came out. I forget where it was. It was a lower seeded, maybe it was Challenger Cup or even Combine, and he was playing this Sobek play, and just really was fun to watch. Now Jago to the sky in the jungle. He'll come right on down, adapting in trouble. Saved by the Khepri. Here comes Dardez with a secondary pull, but not timed correctly. The Khepri ult saves the life. Well done by iRaffer. Fantastically done by iRaffer. And now the fight gonna continue into the jungle by the Fire Giant. Hey, what's up, buddy? You're waking up.
I love what Elevate did there. nulisa jumping into no numbers jumping into the cloud, being able to get away, separate some more distance, walking away cleanly. Unfortunately, they couldn't find the pick onto adapting off of the nice little revive from iRaffer, but either way, it's Elevate that's putting the pressure onto NRG.
Yeah, and I'm seeing why. It feels like nulisa here on this Nox is halfway there. She's making these defensive plays really, really well. Whether it's, shadowing the Sun Wukong or shadowing some of her other characters, she's really able to get out of jail with this Nox, and I like that. But we're not seeing enough damage here. A little better than game number 1, but still not there.
Unfortunate circumstance for NRG. These oracles just respawning during the Gold Fury attempt. It was a nice idea that NRG had, as we saw Dimi sit around the speed buff from Elevate, just spotting out who's over there. Maybe there's going to be a lot of members defending, which was the case, but all it took was one Cernunnos out of Jermain to be able to hold on to the efforts and stop it from NRG.
Right now in the duo lane, Dimi level 12 as his no numbers. And this matchup wasn't as lopsided as it might seem on paper. Dimi and his team able to make sure that Dimi gets the blue buff and keeps himself afloat. And that's why we're nice and even here at 11 minutes.
Gladiator Shield has been completed for no numbers. Dimi still working on a slightly more expensive item on that Breastplate of Valor. Going to have more MP5, going to have additional cooldown reduction than that cheaper bridge item. So I like the different styles rather, between these two solo laners.
You know how much CDR is on the Breastplate? Oh, the silence on the bird! No numbers could be in trouble. I mean, he'll walk away. But unlike the Breastplate, he only has 10 CDR.
It's only 10. It's not 20.
It's not 20 CDR.
It's a lot of CDR. You know what other item has 20 CDR?
Not Shield of Regrowth.
Not anymore.
Thankfully. That was a little bit rough. Everyone was just Metro zooming around the map. Oh, I healed Zoom!
Naja would have it all the time.
All the time.
Thanatos would have it.
All the time.
Hercules would have it.
All the time.
Amaterasu.
Sometimes. No, all the time. Every time, man. Dardez and Jermain set up an ambush here, looking for emilitoo, but the root misses. Jermain can't find it on the left side of the map, so he's going to just go back to the farm. Tough stuff coming out from Elevate. That game number 1, they were able to contend for about 15 minutes.
Yeah, Elevate was doing a great job just holding on to the game for quite a while. Same thing can be said about this game, though. This is the point in time where there was a first blood that happened, but despite both teams having 1 kill to their name each, it's not too much action around the Gold Fury here. NRG tried to find a small window to exploit it, but Jermain sniffed it out and stopped it. And this time around, NRG need to find more little ways to poke holes at Elevate.
So last time Elevate had the early game momentum, but didn't really do much with it. Now this game, we see the invades coming out, and they're actually going to go for the Gold Fury. iRaffer follows Cherryo as he takes a very obvious path into the jungle.
This might just be a bait to allow the members from NRG to group up. Therefore, Dardez can look for that Blink ultimate engage. And that would set up quite a lot of burst damage, considering nulisa has that Silence Cloud, has a huge burst damage out of her ultimate. That's the tactic that Elevate is going for around that Gold Fury.
Exactly. We saw in game number 1 that nulisa wasn't able to really confirm her damage on the Nox, who, to give credit to the mage or for the player, it's difficult to confirm the damage, right? I mean, that's frankly why Nox isn't picked up more often in the SPL. But when we do see players play the Nox, most notably Pretty Prime plays her, and we see MLC Stealth play her as well, there's a lot of setup on the rest of the team. Well, between Cherryo, Dardez, and even no numbers, I think there's much more setup this time around than in game 1.
The Bruise brothers always looking for ways to play off of one another. This Ares pick has been successful thus far, burning some purification beads, finding that helping get that first blood onto iRaffer under that tier 1 mid tower. And so far, so good out of Elevate in terms of getting back into this set, trying to get at least a split here.
That's, you've dubbed them the split monsters. They're able to pick up a couple of the season.
They split earlier on against Poppies. Split machines.
Can they do it against the big boys? Is the question.
They have in the previous splits. You know, they split again. I think the only team they didn't split against the last season was Obey Alliance, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe they did, actually.
And one of the biggest things here as we look towards the future is the fact that that jungle has changed. Fails was a shining star on this team, and now defaults over to Enix, and Cherryo is the replacement for Nico, whether it's temporary or permanent. I'm not privy to, but either way, Cherryo, I think, for Fails, at this point, not an upgrade.
Not quite at this point, but still looking for those plays that we know he's capable of with this NRG selection. Cherryo is always still respected in that jungle role for that potential.
And that's much more of a comment about Fails' recent success than anything of a knock towards Cherryo. Fails has just catapulted himself amongst the ranks of other junglers. He's just performed extraordinarily well, whereas Cherryo, whether it's because of the teams he's on or otherwise, just hasn't seen the same level of success.
And he's just more interested in being that Guardian player anyway. He's talking about playing in the support position so that he can continue playing these Guardians that he's just such a big fan of.
3 chains onto emilitoo. That brings him down to about 75%. Big damage is adapting, comes through onto Dardez with the pull and the smoke out from mid lane. Yammyn gets credit for the kill onto Dardez. Jermain likely to follow once the Aegis falls off, and it will. Adapting picks up his first kill of the contest.
Just still over aggression here coming out of Dardez and still diving that tier 1 tower. Gonna find Cherryo for the 3rd kill of this team fight. nulisa forced to run away, and just like that, one little misstep yet again from Elevate. They looked for another aggressive play around the purple buff from NRG, but it was without the blink. It just was too aggressive at the wrong place at the wrong time. Everyone from NRG could easily capitalize on this Ares.
I mean, that was just a play that NRG had been... It looked like they were waiting to make that play.
They were expecting this kind of aggression. Now, if you're not going to be using the blink to engage out of Dardez, you can't really expect to get out of any kind of encounter because you're utilizing that surprise factor behind these corners, behind the jungle side to do these okey-doke plays with an Ares pull, get some purification beats, and rely on your teammates to bail you out. But because he was just running at them, that's easy damage confirmed on an Ares.
And NRG go ahead and they're fighting a bunch of insects with a citronella candle, essentially. Just come on. Come, it's a honey pot. Come right directly where we want, and we'll just do whatever we want to you after the fact. We'll take the portal demon, and we'll slink back into the jungle after that one. 17:27 on the clock. NRG lead this one 4-1. And with respects to gold, they're up there as well. 3,000. To be precise, NRG find themselves looking very pretty here in game number 2.
The relic selections have just been so interesting this game. Looking at iRaffer specifically, that sprint, not only was it used early game to get away from the red buff invade that they had against Elevate, but it was also used to catch up to Dardez there under that aggressive tactic from Elevate. But not only that, he has a Thorns on his 2nd slot and expecting to receive a lot of damage here. He wants to be able to return it here in some of these later stages of the team fights.
There's the ultimate onto nulisa from adapting. Likely to dive the tower since Dimi's going to wrap around from the back end. There's the dash forward, and nulisa walks towards iRaffer, and Dimi cleans him up. Nice extended ultimate coming out from the NRG. 1, 2, 3, and adapting gets hit with the ultimate out of iRaffer. Continuing on to the fight is going to be the mid lane, and emilitoo takes the Gold Fury, all while his team is just doing this mid lane fight. All just a distraction. emilitoo joins, and it's going to be the full unit.
That's how you can tell NRG are just so far ahead. They don't even need their Hunter for this team fight. They need him to get more gold out of that gold.
They weren't even that far ahead. They were up 2,500, 3,000 gold.
The problem was the positioning out of Elevate. They conceded so much map control by being under their own tier 1 tower. No vision around that Gold Fury from them either way. Just allowed NRG to be at every place that they needed to allow themselves to find nulisa under that tier 1 tower. They barely even took too much damage from both of the ultimates from Dardez and Cherryo. The ultimate from iRaffer, it was used more for a mobility aspect than actual revival, considering that the sprint was also popped to be able to get away. Dimi made the rotation. His mobility aura was taken into full effect.
emilitoo here, getting some extra farm. Level 17, comparatively speaking, to the other Hunter. Only level 16. Neither Hunter with a kill, but 4 assists on the Rama player. And the only numbers to talk about, 2 deaths for Jermain. Not his cleanest game so far.
No, not at all, but he's still on the relatively same pace out of emilitoo. He's not terribly far behind, still sitting at level 16 compared to 17 on emilitoo, but at the end of the day, the builds are relatively the same. The only thing different here that I'm seeing is the difference of Fatalis rather going for Rage.
And that's going to be, it's going to allow emilitoo. Fatalis is a strong item when you're up. I mean, it's a strong item no matter what, but I like it better when you're ahead because this allows you to just chase down the enemy. They can't escape. You might not be hitting as hard as your opposition, but you're hitting them more often, and they can't run away from you.
Just great offensive and defensive capabilities out of this item, but it's Dimi trying to either bait or wait for his teammates to make this rotation, keeping a few members preoccupied on the right-hand side of the map, as NRG is going to start to group up around this tier 1 mid tower, looking to get some more gold under their belt.
Yeah, 4 players already in the middle lane, adapting, waiting it out, getting some farm by way of the mid-harpies, and all 5 members of Elevate here in the middle lane. No numbers looked like he was looking for an initiation, but just smacks him with the hammer and continues on.
That's all you really need to do out of your Sun Wukong. Honestly, just look for the long-range poke out of your cudgel. Look to be that absolute nuisance by using the Ox form through every single body. emilitoo now split pushing in the solo lane, so we're going to see a 4-on-4 in mid, 1-on-1 in that solo lane.
And I like that the rotation coming out from No Numbers is there. He's going to be able to protect that tower, which would go to NRG for free. And No Numbers, again, understanding the characteristics of the individual choice here. No Numbers, yes, does have big team fight impact, but Cherryo much more. He's going to be able to remove a single player, most notably a Khepri, from the map, while the other 3 players kill a target of choice. No Numbers, I just like who chose to go over there solo lane. I don't like that Jermain pushed up that far and wound up killing himself.
By himself. No one even from his team was around the corner. Everyone was around tier 1 in the tier 1 in mid. We saw in the solo lane, No Numbers was trying to stop the back out of emilitoo. And without the Hunter from Elevate, this is going to give NRG a 5-on-4 power play for 30 seconds.
Yeah, this is the push that NRG need. Again, very small mistakes wind up being very big opportunities for an established team like NRG. Dimi going to go ahead and tank the target for a while, and there comes No Numbers with the Ox you were talking about. iRaffer gets sashed. The ult misses. Cherryo, and now everybody looking at the Naja pulling off of the tower.
Winged Blade stopping the slow coming out of the ultimate from adapting. Rooted in place is emilitoo. Ox form to try to get into the backline. No Numbers gets off the Master's Will, trying to do off a lot of damage. Forced to go into the cloud as he takes enough for himself. He's probably going to be in a lot of trouble. The iRaffer not going to use his ultimate on that one.
The ultimate used by Dimi to go ahead and stun Dardez, but not going to be enough to find a kill at all. But it's all a ruse. Portal Demon.
Sneaky NRG just getting another objective under the noses out of Elevate. Slow and steady is the NRG game plan in this set. I think this could be an interesting style for them in the future.
Yeah, this is, like we said, this has been a change for NRG. I feel like Elevate are just making mistakes here, though, Toli, which is NRG understand their opponent.
If you're as patient and as calculating as NRG are, you're eventually bound to make the mistakes here. And No Numbers! He steals the Fire Giant with the cudgel!
Classic play. The Sun Wukong walks up, whap, Jingu, bang, goes the Fire Giant. I love it. I think that's enough for Elevate to get the win back in their sails as well, Anatoly.
They got the tier 2 mid. They're grouped up around the dual lane. Dimi making the rotation to stop Jermain from his split push shenanigans, but he's going to chase him down. He has way more mobility, but instead not wanting to commit, or really afraid of the potential collapse that Elevate has.
Immediately back in the game. Jermain, what are you doing? Jermain! Jermain throws his life away. Did not need to die there. Does not need to happen. Jermain, homie, Jermain falls down there. The Gold Fury goes to NRG. This was the moment for Elevate. They take the Fire Giant off of a dice roll. They successfully do it. They call back their Hunter from split pushing, and then he feeds for what? For Oracles? At this point in the game, the Oracles are not worth the life of your Hunter. With Fire Giant, you defend against this energy push. Now you can't do it because Jermain's sitting out for 40 seconds.
Just miscommunication all across the board from Elevate. As a 5-man unit with Fire Giant, you never want to be split off. You're going to get caught out of position. That's the second time this game that Jermain has been left alone, high and dry. And now Cherryo is going to get caught a little bit. The Wing Blade gets procced out, has to use that ultimate. Here comes the snipes, though.
And emilitoo looking for it. The Aegis is good enough. Now that, maybe, I'm not dressing up the Jermain death, man. Their miscommunication with yourself. He spoke to himself the wrong way. Hey, man, maybe we should do oracles. No, we shouldn't. That's a miscommunication with yourself. That was just not good.
the rest of his team was split pushing down mid, pushing down the solo lane tier 2 as well. So I think the communication was, okay, we'll split push. Jermain, you split push the left-hand side, and once the left side got split off there from the rest of his teammates, he needed to peel back a little bit.
I have no beef
there
about
was no
splitting.
vision around that Gold Fury for Elevate to really spot out how committed NRG was to finding at least one kill.
Well, either way, looking for the comeback after that one, as 4 players still have the Fire Giant. Elevate still in a good spot, and Adapting gonna get pulled and grilled. Cherryo with the kill onto Adapting. Now going into the jungle, chasing out 3 different players. No numbers, just finding the slows and the controls. He's down to about 80%, but likely tick that up thanks to the sustain coming out from the Fire Giant. No sustain for Jermain, but everything else will remain as the player is going to go ahead and walk down the lane and get what they came for. I'll be here all week, folks.
Are you dropping the mic on that one?
I'll be here all week, folks.
Well, Elevate, they still have the Fire Giant for another 50 seconds. They get all the towers here against NRG. They're still down a little bit of gold, but this doesn't matter when you have a buff such as Fire Giant for this 45 seconds. Going to find the pull onto No Numbers, but Stone of God is going to stop that one.
Look at the play by No Numbers. He knocks Dimi into the silence field.
Dimi taking just too much damage. Nice little knock-up. Left side Phoenix still being aggressed on, but Jermain is too afraid.
Cherryo, mid lane. Where did it go? The Phoenix gets taken out by Naja. Fantastic split push candidate. Adapting's gonna take down No Numbers, but Elevate got what they came for. They came for a Phoenix, and they got a Phoenix.
Oh.
As long as they lose just one, it's good. But they're gonna lose 2, Tully. What can they do here?
They're gonna lose more because Dimi has the movement speed, or they could chase this down till the end of the world. Emilitoo with the Fatalis. Gonna box against Jermain. Jermain trying to do as much damage as he can before he goes down, but that doesn't matter. 3 dead already. Dardez is gonna be that 4th victim.
Oh, Dardez. Played the fantastic game, hit 3 separate people with the chains in that chase down. NRG wind up taking it to the bank. 40 seconds on the duo lane, 20.
They're going for the end. They are going for the end, or at least one Phoenix here. But there's 3 towers out of Elevate. I can't imagine that NRG can actually end here.
No, they need this Phoenix at the very least. 10 seconds on everybody else. They're going to slink back. We're not going to see them go for the win. But they need the Phoenix.
Yeah,
they have to answer Phoenix with Phoenix.
Okay, maybe if there was no towers available here out of Elevate, maybe NRG go for the end here, but the respawn timers were still a little short. Cherryo was still alive, and that's all they really need. Between those ring bounces would be so obnoxious, just stripping away so many protections out of the Guardian here from iRaffer, but still able to walk away cleanly with that mid Phoenix. So answers cleanly to Cherryo's split push shenanigans. And Naja late game, the attack speed, once you pop that steroid,
55.
It's just so much additional attack speed. It's insane.
Look what item Naja has. 10 CDR!
It's 10!
Rapper gets sashed up by Cherryo. Somebody go find that clip where I go nuts about the 20 CDR. Because half the audience right now is like, what are you talking about? I'm referencing a moment where there was 20 CDR on that item and totally had some fun. But the people that are having fun right now are, well, I was going to say Elevate fans, but Elevate fans are sitting there tearing their hair out because this team makes highlight reel plays.
They're just up and down all over the place, which is why they always walk away with usually a split in a lot of these sets, but just not able to really find clean victories in a lot of their games. Still able to make the plays though, however. You can't discredit them for that. You know, we see Cherryo making some plays. Jermain, despite the deaths, he's always been doing a lot of damage as well. Not so much this game though.
A little too far forward is Cherryo. This could be trouble. They do chase out the ultimate from Dimi. Nice. I like that Cherryo opted not to use his purification beads, just the Aegis. The ultimate from Dimi a little bit more important in that scenario. Cherryo's going back to base and leave NRG with a 5-on-4, but they don't know, and so they're just going to head back to the lane.
Elevate down the mid lane. NRG still hovering around this Fire Giant as it has respawned. They need to find this one pick. One team.
They're out of the ward.
One pick equals one Fire Giant.
Elevate trailing this game in kills 2-11. but where it matters is the gold. Only down 3,000. Irrelevant to really explain how far the lead is, but really just painting the picture of how much Elevate have been able to contend here, largely to Dardez and no numbers. The front line for Elevate have been doing so much work this game, zoning, controlling, and everywhere in between. That said, no numbers got himself in a bit of a tizzy, but he'll be able to fly away.
That's just what happens when you Ox form on in, absorbing a lot of cooldowns. And
It's up again.
Dimi goes with that ultimate, forces out the dash, and the ultimate from Cherryo on the right-hand side. The snipes coming from Jermain. Wild Hunt trying to zone away, but the dive is just not going to stop.
Cherryo, just poor positioning coming out from Elevate, unfortunately makes it again a 5-on-4.
That's what NRG does. They just force you into like these weird, awkward positionings. No numbers had to retreat north. We see Cherryo retreating bottom east side, and Fire Giant gonna get started this time.
No way.
It will be slain by NRG. There was no way that Dardez can find that with a chain steal.
Which is unfortunate because NRG wasn't zoning for anything. Anybody could have walked in and just flicked the Fire Giant in the nose, and it would have been a steal. But and I don't hate the play coming out from no numbers, looking for the push out of the Phoenix, as long as the Phoenix goes down, and it does.
To the Archers.
But that play, you needed your, since Cherryo's dead, you need your son Wukong there.
Somebody with a little bit more burst damage than the chains or the flames coming out of Dardez needed to be in position to find that Fire Giant steal. And with Jermain using that Wild Hunt to try to save the life out of Cherryo, there wasn't too much potential for him to get into the thick of things. No number using that Ox, knocking up 3 members in the back line, but it's Dimi trying to penetrate himself onto Jermain.
And Jermain trying to play defense a little bit, but can't handle it. Right side Phoenix goes down. Mid lane Phoenix just respawns, which means it's literally 3 smacks from the Amaterasu to claim the life of the mid Firebird. Now the chase is on. Elevate looking for their own chase. No numbers, avoiding the Khepri in both ways. Love it. Actually forcing Khepri to pop that shield on the Magi's Blessing.
Magi's Blessing not available for iRaffer, which means he's going to get stunned out from Cherryo. Nice disengage, preventing the Stellar Burst. The stun from no numbers, keeping iRaffer into place. Scarab's Blessing needs to be used, and it will be. Wild Hunt will proc it off. Nox ultimate in the back line, and emilitoo needs to retreat as well, but it's iRaffer the first victim.
And that's going to be a kill for Cherryo. Elevate off to the races now, chasing down NRG in the mid lane. Fire Giant already gone. No objectives to distract Elevate. What they have to be distracted by are the minions on the right side of the map, and that's it. The minions from mid lane will cancel out fire on fire. Right side is the Phoenix they have to attack. They realize they can't do it just yet, totally, but I like this shift to the right side of the map.
The right side, the fire minions are so deep inside the territory out of Elevate. By the time they eventually push that in, the revive is going to happen from iRaffer, and it will be that 5-on-5 anyway. And Fire Giant still around 4 members for another minute in 45 seconds, giving NRG enough of an opportunity to wait for iRaffer to revive, look for this last remaining tier 2 tower, maybe even go for the Gold Fury, trying to finish off some of their 6-slot items and get some more vision deep in the territories out of Elevate.
This is late game Smite, and sometimes the plays seem like, oh man, they didn't really do anything. The fact that Elevate can't really do anything off of the kill on iRaffer, that's just because of where the game is right now. But that stop was so important. If NRG are allowed to go back and regroup and just hit everything one more time, I mean, NRG don't get to push up the wave that far.
Absolutely. If that fire minions wasn't in that position, Elevate can easily get a Phoenix of their own, whether it's left or a right, but instead, NRG are thanking their lucky stars to be in that position with now iRaffer reviving, going for the Spirit's Robe as his last item. Gold Fury being started up here by Elevate, but iRaffer spots it out.
Oh, that's bad.
He has some CDR. He has some CDR.
Sure. Shouts to emilitoo, just picking up the Gold Fury, saying thank you. But I won't say there's no reason to be doing Gold Fury. Your mid laner needs items, sure. Your support is actually done, but your mid laner needs items. And of course you have potions, right? But trading a Naja ultimate for the Gold Fury at minute 34 when NRG are sieging with Fire Giant buff, not my play of the week.
20 seconds remaining on this buff for NRG. Dimi taking a little bit of poke, forced to dash away into safety. Still a 5-on-5 Yammyn, poking out no numbers quite heavily here. Dimi's going in.
Here comes the push with the minions. Dimi leading the charge, half HP already. Adapting finds the ultimate onto nulisa, who's in a lot of trouble, but shadows her teammate. Jermain goes down to the back end. There's going to be no numbers, jumping into the portal cloud a little bit early, but looking just for the aggression. Dimi on the backside looking for nulisa. emilitoo finds the kill. The pull from Dardez. It ain't good enough. He's gonna hang on by the skin of his teeth, but you can't say the same for his teammates. Dardez getting the kill. Will he find it? No, emilitoo's gonna dash away. He does! The kill for Dardez.
That's huge.
Well done. I mean, it's huge, Tolly. Does that mean they have to retreat?
I mean, there's no Hunter DPS now to
They do
secure
have to
that
retreat.
Titan there. Naja does a lot of damage. It's a 3-on-4 for another 50 seconds as emilitoo is about to revive at that point, which means it'll be a 5-on-4 for about a 20-second window for Elevate. However,
I don't know.
as the Mid Phoenix respawns here, still having to worry about the left and right side fire minions as the Fire Giant will respawn. NRG still has a good chance of closing this one out to get those 3 points, catching up to Obey Alliance.
Between Yammyn and adapting, you don't think they could have taken the Titan?
No. Not at all, because there were still 3 members alive for Elevate. You're looking at specifically Cherryo with those ring bounces. If there's no minions there for NRG, those ring bounces just absolutely devastate everyone from NRG.
That's fair. All right. Because I'm looking at Yammyn and I see the amount of damage he's been able to dish out.
Well, he used a supernova to actually confirm onto Jermain off of a nice double ultimate stun coming out of Dimi, and that set up the supernova from Yammyn.
No numbers here. Can he do it again? Not at all.
Doesn't want to take the risk.
Yeah.
It's too risky at this point. The
I agree.
respawn timers are too long. Whether or not he gets it, he would most certainly fall for it. And that would give NRG that 5-on-4 power play that they need. Even with Elevate having 4 Fire Giant members there, it was just nothing that they could really do against NRG with that 1 extra man advantage.
You always hear me say 99% of the time I want somebody to jump in there and go for it. That's the 1% of the time where you don't. Because as you said, you die in real life, like it's Sword Art Online or something. It's a 70, 80 second like cooldown timer, respawn timer. You basically just traded it, right? So
maybe if somebody was just around the corner to maybe bail him out of danger, I would have liked to see no numbers go for that risky play. But, you know, the cudgel, you have to always respect the cudgel. And I don't even think NRG would allow him to get in position for the cudgel the second time around.
So he sat there, basically the thought process behind no numbers. He sat there and he was just waiting. And as soon as Dimi showed up, he said, oh, I'm not going to go for it. If nobody zoned him, like NRG didn't zone a number of times throughout this game, sure, he's going to wait, go around the back and go for it. But
not only that, there was just no vision from Elevate around the Fire Giant. So not only is it a risky play in general, but now you just have no vision. So now you're going in blind, just hoping that the Fire Giant is at that right threshold for you to just come in and be the hero that everyone needs you to be.
Look how many Naja bubbles there are. And yes, I'm calling Magi Blessing Naja bubbles because that's exactly what they're there for, to make Cherryo not have an impact in this game.
Taking a lot of damage as Cherryo off of Dimi's second ability. They're forced to go under that Phoenix. Half health after the revive. Doing a lot of poke in the backline is Dimi. Getting the stun off Cherryo. Missing the ultimate. emilitoo capitalizing.
Yeah, that's going to be the dead jungler. That might be it, Anatoly. 5 members with the Fire Giant buff. They're going to walk towards the mid Phoenix, and that goes down nice and easy. And they're going to shift over to the left side. That's the old typewriter play. It's already done. They're waiting for it.
They're just waiting for that last Phoenix. They want to make sure this Titan is at the most vulnerable form. But unless they can find one more additional pick, emilitoo taking a lot of damage. There's no numbers. Diving the backline yet again.
iRaffer gets the kill. Dimi gets credit for it, but sets up with Dardez going down. Now the Titan will be the target. Like I said, NRG going back to the basics, fixing the fundamentals, and earning the victory versus Elevate 2-0. This one took 40 minutes. But NRG ultimately finish it up.
Very clean first game coming out of NRG. Second game was also relatively back and forth action. A lot better of a showing coming out of Elevate, but not the split machines that we've known them to be. They found a lot of splits against a lot of high caliber teams last split. Not the same this time around.
Like I said, I think this is more has to do with NRG really ramping themselves up and some of Elevate's stutter steps. New jungle this week, a new jungle last week. You just have that lazy Susan of players. It's really hard to just buckle down and find your game plan. Whether there was more variables or not in the mix, that's what the desk is for. Say hi for me.
Thanks so much, F-Dot. And while Elevate might have been looking a little bit shaky out there, I don't think NRG could say the same. And if anything, NRG were looking incredibly strong.
Definitely, as the casters mentioned there, a return back to basics. This is a team that, you know, struggled a little bit during the beginning of Season 4, and it was time for them to just play their game again and play it slow in Game 1, you know, very calculated, didn't make a lot of mistakes. And then Game 2, you know, they ended up giving up that Fire Giant to no numbers, but at the end of the day, it was still a fairly clean performance today from NRG.
And I'm sure the NRG have to be feeling pretty good after that clean 2-0 set performance. And we actually have iRaffer standing by. iRaffer, how are you feeling?
I feel better. We finally got a 2-0 in the bag, so can't complain.
Yeah, iRaffer, I mean, after the Masters LAN, you know, I was talking with you guys on the desk, and you said it was time for you guys to refocus up. How's the team environment been since that LAN loss?
It was a tiny bit sloppy to begin with, but it's picking up now. You can see from the playstyle it is picking up. There's a few minor errors, but hopefully they should get fixed. I think that the stomp against Obey definitely gave us some confidence, and they obviously stumped us too, which sucked, but we got to at least learn. It's you learn more actually from losing than you do stomping, so.
Sure.
And how do you guys, like, in general feel as far as qualifying for DreamHack Valencia? You think your shots are being threatened at all?
Yeah, we should qualify. It would take a lot of errors to not.
I mean, Europe as a whole, though, right now, iRaffer, is as strong as any region has ever been, in my mind, in terms of competitive Smite. I mean, how difficult is it to game plan for so many different teams? Because all the top teams seem to be doing different things. They're not all playing one same style.
I feel it's a lot better. You can definitely scrim any team in the league now. You know they're going to give you good practice 99% of the time, and like from watching like the NA games to seeing how they play, just the EU, I feel like they're going to dominate again just because every team is playing so good.
I think a lot of people probably share that sentiment, but
Sure.
I mean, NRG are kind of regarded as a team that takes a little bit to warm up to the meta. Do you guys feel like you've finally like warmed up?
I feel like we have warmed up, but there's still major issues that's really frustrating to watch and definitely play with, but hopefully we'll get them cleaned out because we won't win Worlds unless we do, because all the teams have really improved now.
Without a doubt. I mean, as I mentioned, it's just every team is so good, as you said as well. I'll ask you straight up right now, iRaffer, do you guys still think you're the best team in the world?
If a team didn't, if a player thought their team wasn't the best, then I don't think they're putting 100% in, so I feel like every team should think their team's the best.
Fair enough.
That's a very solid answer.
And I hope that answers it for you.
It did. I got it.
Yeah, we're not the best.
Oh, man. Well, I mean, I was going to say that was a pretty solid answer, but I think that you guys are still sitting pretty net top, honestly. And are there any shout-outs that you actually want to go ahead and give?
Shout-outs to my friends, family for supporting me through these hard Sunday days, and shout-outs to Reddit.
All right, well, that'll be a wrap for the support from NRG, and congratulations yet again to NRG for securing their 2-0 victory over Elevate, which will put them in a very nice place in the standings now, getting that extra 3 points. I mean, they've got to be feeling pretty good about that at least.
As you just heard during the interview there, Taco, I mean, Europe as a whole is so strong right now that you cannot afford to not take these 2-0s against teams that you feel like you should be beating that hard. So NRG needed to come out today and look like they did. It wasn't, you know, the 25-minute stomps that sometimes they'll show up with, but I think that a game like that, where they just play calm, cool, and collected the entire time, at least for the most part, as I mentioned, the objective steal, but overall, NRG should get some confidence from this, and they needed this 2-0 victory today.
And you could tell that NRG was also in control of the pacing, I would say, for both of those games. And that's not the only team that was controlling the pacing for today. We actually saw Obey versus the Poppies in set number 1, and that was a really spicy set. Even though the Poppies fell 2-0 to Obey, I still feel as though there was definitely some sparks of life from the Poppies.
Without a doubt. Game 1 in particular, the Poppies looked very, very strong, and they made a lot of really strong plays, But then, like we always see with these teams that are just coming out of relegations, that are just trying to break into the Pro League, they just made those 1 or 2 mistakes that ended up losing them the game. It's taking a couple too far steps after taking that tier 1 tower. It's Dalo just chasing a kill a little bit too far. He falls, and then Obey get a chance to go for the Fire Giant. The Poppies have a lot to be proud of with how they played against Obey. They just need to clean up those small little mistakes, and they could end up being one of these teams in Europe that can compete with everyone else.
And speaking of small little mistakes, I mean, Poppies were capitalizing on Obey's mistakes, but thankfully for Obey, they did have Ataraxia to clean up everything. And he was just completely popping off in both of these games, especially when he was doing everything possible on the Huyi gameplay. I loved seeing that matchup between the current, especially in lane. It's a really fun matchup to get going. And when you're giving it to a hunter like Ataraxia, he was down to play aggressive.
Nate is in the zone right now. Ataraxia is just playing at the top of his game, and this is the play that I'm talking about where he baits Dalo in. This is the fight that wins Obey this game outright. Ataraxia is just doing the regular hunter things. He's staying in lane. He can take the 1v1s if the enemy messes up, but he's always going to be there in the later stages. He works so well with his team. His teamwork is the thing that really sets him apart from a lot of other hunters right now. I mean, you want to talk about, Jermain is there ready to always make the flashy plays, but there are times where his team fight kind of starts to become lackluster. His decision-making, you cannot say that about Ataraxia, who's always ready to go in those team fights.
Ataraxia helped his team really come back and win that all around in game number 1. But in game number 2 is an entirely different story. That game was not as close, and a large portion of that credited to Maniac, who just completely probably crushed the Poppies. Like, anytime you get a start that happens like this, and you see the solo laners, some Wukong solo at that, securing an early couple of kills, that's crushing.
Twig did a phenomenal job in this little play as well, juking out the Stellar Burst there. It was his ring toss that set up the first blood. But you're right, Maniac gets a double kill before the 2-minute mark, and the speed, and the blue, and the game. I mean, this was all Maniac the entire time.
And he kind of just controlled the pacing of the lane from then on. There was really just nothing to be done in that solo lane. I mean, there's no way that you're going to be able to control Maniac. He's hard enough to deal with when he doesn't have a massive lead, and when he does have the huge lead, he's just not going to be a player to lose it.
Good luck against Maniac. You're right. I mean, especially on a character like Sun Wukong that can pressure so well, but stay safe at the same time with his ranged poke, with his with his 72 transformation escape. His ultimate works in his escape as well. So difficult to lock him down, and I mean, he's used to playing Osiris. That was his god during the spring portion of Season 4. So he's going to be ready to go, just hold W at you, and just knock you down with that warrior.
So, of course, congratulations to both of those teams, Obey and NRG, for securing their 2-0 victories, because that 3-point boost standing is going to be so nice for them. Like we mentioned it at the start of the stream, that everything was looking really tight over in EU. You weren't really certain of who's going to be qualifying in those top 4 contending slots, but now, after NRG and Obey, they were both sitting at 2 points, but in the standings, that boosts each of these teams to 5, and it was just solid all around.
I mean, NRG and Obey have both had some pretty tough games to start off the split, so no real surprise of where they were sitting. This was the week where they both needed to get their 2-0 victories, and they both have done their job thus far, both NRG and Obey now in that 3 and 4 slot tied up in points, and their head-to-head matchup is tied as well, so keep an eye on these two, because with the way Rivals playing, NRG, Dignitas, Enix as well. I mean, all of these guys, there's 5 teams. One of these teams is not going to get a chance to go to Spain, and they will not be happy about it, because they are all top tier contenders.
And the